Salford Zine Library is an archive of self-published work that I started with Matthew Walker-Dine back in 2009. It isn't solely zines that we hold in the archive, it's self-published work with artist books, self-published novels, self-published pamphlets, anything self-published essentially would go into the archive. Work comes in from all around the world, like North America, South America, Australia, India, Japan. We have photography zines, football fanzines, science fiction fandom that dates back to the 1970s, which is probably the earliest type of zines worth science fiction fanzines. We have political stuff, anarchist work, feminist work, lots and lots of artist books, illustrations of journalism, poetry zines, literature, queer zines, lots of mini comics as well. I decided to make this film basically so people coming to the exhibition, come to see the library, could see the type of people who make zines and how varied it is, and how some people are just making zines in their bedrooms, some are making them in their studios, and some are making them to quite a high end, some are just photocopying at a 2p photocopy place, and just how accessible zines are. So basically I put a call out for people to send videos of themselves talking about the zines they make, why they make the zines. I also went around Manchester interviewing many different studios where people made zines, and people in their houses where they made zines, and just seeing why they do what they do. And that's what this film is about.
Okay, so my latest piece of work that I just made is a book called Wish You Weren't Here, and it was I went on a trip to Italy with a friend for 3 weeks, and we kind of travelled around a bit, and as we travelled around I was like, oh, I really want to buy this person postcards and send them to them, but I kind of felt like I couldn't and didn't want to for, well, reasons, but I just thought, oh well, screw it, I'll just do it, I'll buy them and write them, and never told my friend who I was with either. I was just like, I'll just do them and I never have to use them, I can throw them away or keep them or do whatever I want with them at the end. And then I had this kind of, I got back and I had this select, like, I think there's about 9 or 10 postcards, and I was like, do you know what, I was like, I really want to make them into a book, and I never usually do things that are kind of so personal. I'm always be kind of not removed from my work because I really am passionate about it, but it's never usually about me at all.
I think we don't offer any opinion, we don't preach, we don't claim to be anything. We just sort of create a starting point, and then I think what's interesting about the outzine is the different interpretations of just a simple word.
The same thing, yeah.
Now sort of they contrast and collide and complement each other, and that's what makes it interesting, I think.
It kind of, I think it kind of varies from time to time, but a lot of the time it's just kind of aesthetic, and we want something like visually that's going to kind of have an impact.
Yeah, we're not like political in what we're trying to say or anything like that.
It's a book of Polaroids again. It has the size of the original Polaroids, and it's from a trip I took in 2008 from London to Lisbon. You can see it like this as a book, or you can see it like this. As a whole long stretch of pictures.
Why don't we acknowledge the fact that 95 to 97% of all photographs are not about art, but 95 to 97% of photography magazines are about art. It's, you know? So imagine your house catched fire, or your apartment, or your room in my case. Your house catched fire, and for some weird reason you only had the chance to save one single photograph. There's no computers. Computers weren't invented yet. Yeah, they're just prints lying around everywhere. Yeah, which one would you save? Would you save your biggest artistic success? Would you save a stupid picture you did for a client or a fashion shot or something? No, you would not. You would save a picture of your ex-girlfriend. You would save the one picture you took of your dog before it got put down a few years ago. You would save a snapshot from this really, really great party you had last summer, the best summer of your life. You would save a picture of your wife celebrating topless on New Year's Eve, wouldn't you? You would save the picture of the first bed you slept in after 3 years of being on the road, wouldn't you? Would you save a picture of your cat? I know I would. So, yeah, that's what I do. I collect these images. I collect your photographic treasures, if you want. The images that really mean something to you. And I put them together in a little magazine. Yeah, thank you.
This is my fanzine, The Shrieking Violet, and it actually celebrated its second birthday about a month ago this summer, so at the start of August. Basically, I trained as a journalist but couldn't find a job at all and was getting more and more frustrated, so in the end I decided to do my own thing. And this was the first issue, and I conceived it as being an alternative guide to Manchester.
Well, the tagline is the zine for the Lazy Feminist, because one of our sort of themes, ongoing things that we had in third year was we both are very interested in sort of women's issues and stuff around that, but we're not the sort of people that are actually going to go on a march or really...
I've been on marches.
Well, I'm not the sort of person that will go on an actual march, but I guess the point is with people sort of with an opinion, and this is a good way of doing it, but we're like, the concept of the Lazy Feminist is that, you know, we've got all these ideas and we're very interested, but we don't want to do it in a sort of loudspeaker fashion.
I think as well, when I wrote my dissertation, I wrote it about kind of women's publishing and women's magazines, and one of the things I found was all of magazine content is controlled by advertisers, which is frankly incredibly depressing. Mm-hmm. And when you start reading that, you just go, well, it's not really surprised that they're telling me that I need to have red lipstick when they've got an advert for Maybelline on the opposite page.
Yeah, exactly.
How depressing. Mm-hmm. And all of those magazines are owned by men, which like you can get a bit like rah about, or you can kind of make your own magazine and put what you want in it, mm-hmm. and not have adverts for Maybelline.
Yeah, we didn't want adverts from Maybelline.
Do you think Maybelline is advertising it?
And it's about dissatisfaction with the sort of direction that the city fathers take the city in, I suppose. And we just wanted to showcase our take on things, stuff that we were up to, and stuff that our kind of growing circle of like minds was up to. So we got people who write other zines to write for it as well, like Natalie Bradbury, who does Shrieking Violet, and I don't know what else to add really. It was kind of like a critique and a celebration of how we see the city.
Well, it started out as basically a music fanzine. I think we rebranded it when we started our record label, and we wanted to use it as a sort of way of promoting the record label. We run a not-for-profit record label, so alongside that we have cheap gigs and we do like a free podcast. So we wanted to have like a free fanzine that went along with it, where we'd have interviews with the bands and we'd have reviews of other music and gigs we've been to and various other things. As it's developed, the sort of columns pages have got more and more political, I guess. So I guess it's still a music fanzine, but there's lots of sort of social commentary and political commentary in it as well now, as more and more people have started writing for it as well.
But I mean, like on a personal note,
that's one we made in New York, yeah.
Like, I think it was a zine fair in Baltimore.
Yeah.
That we were sending something to, so we just made like a purely collage-based zine out of stuff. I think it was from like a junk store.
But we're told that it's probably got bed bugs all over it.
Yeah.
Books and.
But I think we're okay now. No, we're fine, honestly.
I guess I didn't really realise it until now, but I guess I like looking at. I guess I kind of like a research-based sort of thing, and like researching little ideas or things that have happened, and then it's like the outcomes of that go into the book. So yeah, it's kind of like little mini research projects, and then they get transferred onto the pages.
It's a series of sleeping portraits that I've taken of people that I've met during my travels. So I'll take photographs of them while they're asleep in dorm rooms, tents, couches, wherever it is that I've met them, and I'll tell them about it when they wake up. It does make for an interesting conversation in the morning, but people are usually pretty cool with it once I explain the concept to them. And I always get their permission to use their photograph.
I just enjoy the whole process.
Yeah, I guess that's
and then the process and the outcome for me is what makes a zine. It's not about it doesn't really matter what's in it. I just enjoy cutting paper, getting it the right size, laying everything out. And then when you've got it at the end, you've got a big pile that big. You're like, wow, I did all that.
It is that moving into more of the mainstream culture, and people like Creative Review pick up and review zines. So there's a platform for graphic designers to showcase their work through that. And I think that has been a shift.
Why do I choose to self-publish? Because I make drawings of cats and other things almost every day. Mostly cat drawings. And they are very personal works. And usually that kind of work, it's very hard to share with others, because I even feel a little bit shy to show those personal works to even friends. And but once I put them into a zine, they become something very different. They transform to something more accessible. And I also really like the process of making zine.
I decided to self-publish because I like to control the whole process. I like to decide what materials I use, how large I make something, how many I make, what printing processes I use. And I quite like actually making things, so I'm quite happy to physically put things together. It's also possible now to self-publish and distribute because of forums like self-publishing fairs, websites, blogs, websites through which you can sell books, real bookstores that specialize in self-published books. So I decided to do it because I felt it was a possibility, really.
Ou seja, deixar de ser apenas receptor para ser também emissor. E também para divulgar trabalhos próprios, trabalhos de amigos, de bandas, de desenhistas de histórias em quadrinhos, poetas, enfim, para divulgar a cultura alternativa em geral.
I was quite interested in promoting a lot of smaller bands. It started out as pretty much a music fanzine, and there was a lot of bands I really liked who just didn't really get too much publicity. I'd been playing a lot of gigs, putting on a lot of gig nights, and just thinking no one's ever going to cover this music, so I wanted to put something together that would cover the stuff I was into. I was quite disheartened with mainstream music magazines and their sort of content. So I started off, I did a couple of articles for another fanzine, and I enjoyed it, so I thought I'd start my own one up. And just started off with quite a small, thin one really, just giving it out at gigs with a few gig reviews, live reviews, and a few like short interviews with bands, and then developed it into something bigger.
Why self-publish? Why not? I don't see that there's much of an option for myself because of the type of book that I produce. It isn't traditional. It very rarely is traditional, and it's a very laboured process for me. Myself as the author, I am with the production of my books at every stage, and I imprint my personal self onto the books as much as I do in my writing.
One of the reasons that I really fell in love with making zines is because when you go to events, when you see other people's zines, you can really appreciate the kind of time and energy that went into it, because you can see it. It's even if it's a really very clean looking, a really great layout, you can always think doing the same thing yourself. You can always see the kind of effort that went into it, and I like the kind of respect that's there in the community because of that. And I also really like just the bookmaking process itself. So I'm interested in the way the layout turns out in different zines.
It somehow feels quite mischievous, because something like this, it looks really scrappy, but it's somehow quite self-important at the same time. I think it's quite a brave thing to do, and it's really free, really cheap to do. And there's something really, it goes against the grain of when you make a book, it's different from writing a blog somehow. It seems a bit backwards, maybe, it can't be backwards to make a book. But I think it's quite freeing as well, because you don't have to compromise for anyone. Your way goes.
Each time I put one out, I tell myself never again, that's the last one, because I'm always inevitably photocopying all day and then staying up all night cutting and stapling, and it feels like it's just so much work. But there's always still that sense of accomplishment when you can have stacks of something that you've made and you can hold it in your hand and go, this is a product of my creativity. This is something I've made and this is something I can share. And as well, I think it's really rewarding to be part of the zine community. Like when I've taken my zine to zine fairs, you can see people face to face, you can interact with other zine makers, you can get people's instant reaction to your idea, see how they respond when they pick up your zine and look through it. That can be really rewarding.
I put them together electronically using a kind of design package software, and then they're photocopied on Oxford Road for 2p a sheet.
I make a lot of it by hand and scan it, and then I put it together on InDesign. So I make like things like hand-drawn bits or collage bits and scan them, and then work on them on either Photoshop or something like Illustrator, and then transfer it into InDesign and put it together like that. So it's finished off electronically. It also depends who's doing the covers, because I do the covers sometimes, but sometimes other people do them. So sometimes someone will do quite a digital cover, sometimes someone will do quite a handmade thing. So, but yeah, it's finished off on InDesign and then printed. We've got a guy who prints it down south.
I just make them at home my desk or table. I've moved around a lot, so I used to make them in the cellar, my old house, and I just make it there at the moment, or at work if I don't have anything to do.
Can't do something that's really lavish, or you know, we try and put that, a lot of handmade elements into, like such as like the belly bands and things.
And stamping
things.
Like stamping them, and the map we hand glued all of the covers and hand stamped about 1,500 of them.
Is that important to you, the handmade craft?
Yeah, it is at first when you do like the first couple of hundred, and it's kind of like a nice bonding exercise. But then when you realise like you're not even a fifth of the way through,
your fingers have just started to bleed.
Yeah.
I use typewriter and I use a computer sometimes. I use handwriting. I photocopy things from magazines and use my own photography. It's been fun because over the zines I feel like I've kind of improved them, but built upon things which I thought from the first zine were kind of a good thing, and sort of focused on improving layouts and that sort of thing. I really enjoy making them. Nothing beats the feeling of finishing the zine and that moment where you have to photocopy it and make it, so you kind of like, it's a real sense of urgency and a real thrill to like trade with other people who make zines. I found everyone so far has been lovely, and it's really nice to meet people who make zines. And
show you how to make your very own 8-page zine, like so. Here's one that I made earlier. All you will need is one sheet of paper and a pair of scissors. The place to start is by folding over your sheet like so. Then you need to open your sheet of paper out, turn it over, and then take the edges and fold them into the centre. Now I'm rushing through mine here, but you can take a lot more time when you're making yours at home. Open that out. You're going to turn your paper over again, and then you're going to fold lengthways a piece of paper over, like so. That's it. Now you're going to fold your paper into the original half, and you need to cut. So make sure you get an adult to help you for this part, into the centre there. Then you can open the page out, fold it over, and here's where the magic happens. You have got your very own 8-page zine. Now here's one that I made earlier. It's just ready for you to do your writing and drawing inside to make your very own zine creation. Back to you in the studio.
One of the first things that got me into it was the fact that a lot of mainstream publishing is so biased towards money and people paying for adverts. I think one of the things that really hit me early on about mainstream magazines is that you'd get a magazine with say a band on the front cover, and then later in the issue you'd see a review where they didn't even particularly like that artist and things like that. And I guess when I was a teenager I started to think, well, these people have just paid to have this cover and their record label have paid for this. And I don't think many bigger magazines are ever going to cover the sort of music I'm really into. And I think that goes for music, it goes for football fanzines, it goes for all areas that you might make a fanzine from, like craft type fanzines or design type fanzines. I think it's stuff that doesn't get exposure from bigger publications.
Like when we were with Mike Perry, he constantly did a lot of zine creation, and I think that kind of influenced us a lot, just to kind of constantly be doing it.
Where's the one we made of him? We've not got one.
I think we gave that one away.
All right, because he made us like go through his drawers. He has like massive plan chest of stuff, like just stuff like prints. He made us go through them and just like we had to cut all his prints down, which is weird, and then make 50 zines of all his prints. So it's like kind of making a zine in itself out of.
Yeah, it was just all pattern based. It's beautiful. It's really nice.
Yeah, his stuff's nice. But yeah, we spent 3 months with him, and like in the studio, you'd spend like a day. You'd get like a 40 grand job from O2, but where his joy came from was just making zines.
So when you self-publish something, you can take those stories and put them out in the world, and you're not subject to someone else's editing or censorship or preconceived notions of what's good or bad writing. You can just take your creative vision and put it straight back out there for other people to see.
Well, if I'm working professionally, I have to have a brief given to me, which is a lot lengthier than just a simple word which we'd use for out. And also it's constantly having to feed back to another person and making sure it fits for them and their agenda, whereas without, it's just as long as I'm satisfied with a piece of work, and it's obviously I ask all the other members of out and a few others what they think of it. That I'd be happy with that, and that can be done. Whereas if it's proper work through out, I mean, you can't just think of yourself, it has to be the company's.
I think maybe you're definitely more free to experiment. I mean, I suppose with things happen, our zine, you are your own client, if you like. You know, you can have that freedom to lay out a page in a particular way or make particular decisions which may be cut down, you know, if you're working professionally by either the client or the person that you freelance for. And I think also it gives you an opportunity then, once you've got your zine, and if you're working on other publications for clients, to put a portfolio piece in front of them that is your zine, that you can kind of say this is what we're capable of, and then that can inform your design process with them.
I suppose the artist book allows the scope to do whatever you want in terms of format. You don't have any limits. You don't have a publisher saying it has to be this. You don't have an editor saying it has to be that. And, you know, there are many disadvantages to this. I mean, much of my work goes out with spelling errors, grammatical errors. But there's something nice about that. The artist book is by nature very scrappy, I think, and they are all very ugly things, but that's what makes them beautiful.
I don't produce work commercially or, illustrate stuff for a living or anything like that. I work in a primary school, that's my day job, that's cool, you know. But an artist is what I am, you know, and, the self-publishing scene, I think, is the most accepting place to be for any artist, you know.
Zines are important because they're proof that you don't need the acceptance of a man in a suit in an office somewhere. This is Sifa. Hello, Sifa. And this is little Rini. And this is little Skibby. That's why I make crappy little zines, and why I like reading other people's zines. Zines are also important because you can talk about anything you want, like silly little cats like this. So there you go. If you're feeling creative and you don't need the acceptance of anybody else, go make a zine.
I've seen zines online and it's just not the same.
No, yeah, definitely. I think
you just go through about 2 pages like, oh god, I can't bother with this.
Like even though like the whole magazine culture is kind of dying away, and everything's going online, I think zines will continue. I mean, I guess it's kind of like vinyl. It's really come back strong because people like the sort of physicality of it.
Definitely, I agree.
But yeah, no, I think I think it'll grow and grow because I think it used to be more about people trying to say something and trying to get something out that they could just make on a Xerox machine. But now it's kind of it's kind of evolved into.
And you can say anything or nothing really.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
anyone can do it. All you need is a stapler and paper.
Like I said before, when I said letterpress has got more popular, I guess what I meant by that is it's become dare I say, fashionable again, or yeah, it is more in. And I think it's because people, you can be on the computers all you want to be, but it's nice to actually touch type. It's nice to feel ink embossed on a paper to do something, because all the time we're connected to iPhones, to computers, to these screens. It's just nice to be able to actually get your hands dirty and get into that zone of making something.
It's just such a joy to go into like a beautiful bookshop or find a beautiful book and to be able to sit down and actually read it. I hate, what are those those Kindle things? Oh my god, just buy a bloody book. I hate those things. As if people don't stare at a screen enough of their life. You get square eyes and my neck kills all the time. And like the tactility of it, just to be able to feel, and like I spend ages deciding like what paper to use and if the way that it prints and if it's kind of a little bit raised or I just think it's so much more special, and you can communicate so much more through it, I think
people are sort of scaremongering when they say, oh, the books are going to die. They're not.
There's been a technology
Everyone's
to get rid of
still want them.
Paper and printed for like years, hasn't it? Like,
yeah, exactly.
We've had the internet for 20 years. If it was going to die out, it would have died out.
Yeah,
and then I don't think that Kindles and stuff, like, they don't herald the end of print media.
No.
They just open it up to new.
Particularly with things like a zine, which is design. A lot of it is very personal, it's personally made and so on. And I think that there's that aspect of the actual making of it that people get a lot out of, and particularly when you're heading into the more artist booky sort of zines, or things like Out, who you said you've been speaking to, where they're doing the hand screen printing and so on. People are buying that because they value the poster and they value the screen printing, and that's just something that you can't get across on a screen. It's not there.
There's an electronic version of The Shrieking Violet, which you can read online as a PDF, but I think if it was online only, it would exclude a lot of people who don't have the internet. I think you have to search harder to come across good things on the internet, whereas if it's print, just kind of out there already and you can pick it up and stumble across it.
There's so many easier and quicker ways to sort of get a message out there.
Especially blogs.
Yeah, if you want to, you can blog, tweet, set up forums and so on, and you can describe everything. I mean, there's still going to be a place for printed media to show that, but if it's going to take a week to get it all typed out and then come back from printers and so on, or just photocopying it.
I think the purpose of zines might have slightly altered. I think it allows more time to be invested into a zine because there isn't necessarily that immediacy anymore. I mean, there will be. I think there is still a big underground.